the year, the CEO of Gearbox, Randy Pitchford, was said to have left a thumb drive with both industry secrets and potentially underage pornography at a medieval times, was accused of previously having a violent altercation with the original voice actor of Claptrap, got sued for allegedly stealing $12 million from his own company, and much more. I can go on. And I will! There's also the claim that the original Duke Nukem 3D composer didn't get any royalties from the World Tour re-release. There was a hissy fit that he threw when Game Informer revealed his lie that Borderlands 3 would have microtransactions after he publicly said they wouldn't be, and the dropping of Troy Baker from the Borderlands cast because Gearbox didn't want to work with unions. Many of the more legal-focused events were allegations that we cannot fully back up, but a good chunk of these are quite public and indisputable. Even if all the allegations are false, we still think Randy Pitchford had a WTF level 2019.
Making friends as an adult is hard. You're busy, you're tired, you're stressed. It's even harder when you drink yourself into a stupor so deep that you forget everything about yourself and the world you live in. But it would be much easier if more people out there were like Disco Elysium's Lieutenant Kim Kitsuragi. A man of consummate professionalism, boundless patience and deep compassion, Kim is cast in the unenviable position of playing straight man to one of the most elastic player characters in recent memory. Nonetheless, his character writing remains consistent, touching and funny throughout all permutations. Whether you annoy him constantly with a streak of foolishness, or play a straight-laced cop whose days of wacky rampage are over, Kim is always a perfect foil, constantly showing new sides of himself, such as a jaded but earnest humanism, or a character with his own flaws with a hint of greed and rebellion of authority, or even silly impulses like a fascination with cranes and finding an excuse to say the word hardcore in conversation without breaking his stiff upper lip. Kim is one of the most three-dimensional, not to mention flat-out likable characters that this medium has created yet. It's hard to imagine playing through Disco Elysium fully antagonizing Kim, so chances are by the end, him and your character will end up good friends. You might even push each other to be a little better, just like any good relationship.
Look, I know DOA has a horrendous reputation as a series, and sure, a lot of those elements are still there in the most recent iteration, even if they have been toned down a little bit. But despite this, I can't help but adore playing Dead or Alive 6. I've spent the last 3 or 4 years desperately trying to get into a fighting game. I've purchased pretty much every major iteration of every single major fighting game franchise, and none of them ever seem to stick. But when I decided to give the open beta for DOA 6 a try, it just worked. Something just clicked. I tried out a few characters at random, and by the time I tried my 3rd or 4th fight, I was in. I bought the game and couldn't possibly have asked for anything more from a fighting game. It doesn't matter to me that the story is complete Calvin Ball and it's an impossible to follow mess. It doesn't matter to me that the game has a ton of cheesecake and over-the-top fan service, because it just plays so damn well. The tutorial is comprehensive, and the command training and quest mode helps you learn the game's various concepts. It is just a tremendously in-depth and fun game that even the most low-level player can get into and grow with. Sure, the community's not huge, and I'll never be more than an 0-2 scrub, but I can still make a good player work, and really that's all I could have ever asked for from a fighting game franchise. DOA is a blast to play, and it's my game of the year.
That was absolutely awful.
Isn't it amazing? I want to thank the school board for cutting the music program to help fund this. Totally worth it.
I'm confused. Did she go to space before or after she was Pope?
I think I'm gonna throw up.
The dual protagonists of WWE 2K20's My Career Story Mode are the most insufferable dipshits of 2019. It felt wrong singling out one of these characters as uniquely shitty, since they truly are a package deal. Red and Trey spend the entire story through eerily dark lows and extremely enjoyable highs, constantly bringing everything to a screeching halt to make horrible, eye-rollingly bad quips that even they themselves don't find funny. Their dialogue is written in this artless, designed by committee style of writing that's designed to allow people to play as whatever character they make, but spending 20 hours in a character creator isn't going to make your Red or Trey anywhere near likable. Go to hell, you two.
The ashtray maze in Control is a perfect example of the strengths of video games as a medium, as the rockin' soundtrack by Remedy staple Poets of the Fall, as their in-universe counterparts Old Gods of Asgard, of course, blasts you through a gorgeously shifting, topsy-turvy realm of psychedelic visuals unlike anything you've seen before in a game. The maze delivers an interactive experience that only a great video game can do. Couple that with strong combat mechanics, as at this point your character should have pretty much every tool at her disposal, and you have a scene that perfectly encapsulates the weird and sensational world that Control takes place in.
What if there was Uber, but for therapy? What if you could pay $30 to $40 to have scheduled appointments with a deep learning robot? Would you do it? Hear me out. Eliza is a very mature visual novel that sounds like a setup to a dystopian science fiction scenario, but it is more firmly rooted into investigating the present-day mental health needs of individuals and the tech industry's internal societal machinations. Eliza's themes are appropriately timed in 2019 as juggernaut tech companies are destroying industries by reducing the scale of jobs to gigs, illegally quashing any movement on labor rights, and abusing the private data of their users. These are impossible problems to fathom as an individual, but Eliza fits them all neatly into a branching narrative and puts a human face to these systems. Matthew Burns' writing is impeccable, down to every minute detail of Seattle life, but the highlight of the show is actress Ailey Kay's mastercraft performance of the protagonist, Evelyn, a character who is fully voice acted through each of the 5 main routes. Whether you play as a transhumanist tech savior of the new era, a stay-at-home partner to your cookie-making manager, or a sapphic cyberpunk DJ running purely on impulse, Evelyn can be all of these and more through the caring writing and voice work. There are no blank slate protagonists here. As you navigate the fraught intersection of healthcare and technology, you open yourself to the struggles of real people, and you notice how it changes Evelyn in subtle ways. She starts texting more complete sentences instead of fragments. She interjects more when she sees people hurting around her. It's almost imperceptible until you notice how far being a conduit for robot therapy has actually been your own therapy all along. It also humanizes what it's like working in a gig economy in ways that other similar games from this year lack. You have a life outside of your job, and the job is at times genuinely enjoyable. Even if you're a simple proxy with an unsmart robot in someone's life for 15 or so minutes, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more dynamic and fun visual novel that makes you think. But there's also no better game to represent the complexity of the year 2019 more than Zachtronics' Eliza. And that is why it is my game of the year.